On this Thursday night, Team Canada shoots for its first World Cup win. Vancouver's fever pitch. And what a historic victory on home turf could mean for the team's chances in the tournament. Dissecting the Iran deal, the impact on gas prices, and why critics say the Trump administration caved.
He finally realized he had to just cut our losses, declare a win.
Intimate partner violence and gun control.
Why is this taking so long?
The fight to keep firearms out of the hands of abusers. Plus, World Cup cultures.
No stop.
The mosaic of soccer celebrations for the beautiful game.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Thousands of Canadian soccer fans are erupting in Vancouver tonight. A celebratory sea of red and white after Team Canada's first ever World Cup victory. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Canadian soccer fans are indeed partying tonight. Team Canada not only capturing its first World Cup win, but doing it on home turf and in commanding fashion, pummeling the Qataris 6-0. After last week's draw, Canada is now on the brink of advancing to the next round of the tournament. And our Sarah MacDonald is in the thick of the celebration in Vancouver tonight. Sarah.
Jeff, as you mentioned, the energy here is absolutely electric. There was excitement in the air earlier today before this game started, and now with that historic 6-0 win, Canadians here in Vancouver and right across the globe are going wild. There will be other World Cup matches played on the pitch in Vancouver, but none quite like this one.
Because if we win, we're going through, and Canada's never won a World Cup match.
Go Canada!
As Team Canada kicked off for the first time in the city against Qatar Thursday, the downtown core was overcome by FIFA frenzy.
Go Canada!
At every turn, a sea of red and white. Thousands of fans traveling together on foot to reach BC Place Stadium.
They're all going to the game. They're very excited.
For this dad, here with his 3 boys, this game will be memorable and meaningful long after it's over.
I get emotional just thinking about it. Being able to share this today will be really cool.
Same for Andrew Brown, who drove for 5 hours just to be here with his twin daughters.
Last minute, just bought the tickets a couple of days ago. It's actually an early birthday present for these guys.
I knew it was going to be busy. I didn't expect it to be this busy.
Across the city, it's the bars and restaurants still recovering from pandemic losses, already declaring victory. Establishments like the pub Tyler Browers manages overwhelmed by overflow crowds and filled with football fans on a sole mission to spend.
Probably doing like a week's worth of sales in a day on some days. We've been up like quite a bit. Everyone I think is just super excited that it's happening and it's in Canada.
Go Canada!
Diehard fans like these guys putting in full shifts off the field. And they're in good company. How much are you guys prepared to spend on beer?
Too much. A lot.
A ticket's worth.
Among countless cohorts who might have come for the game, but they're staying for the party.
It's amazing. The fans are going to be loud and it's just going to be fun.
Yeah, loud and fun is an understatement, Jeff. The party here and right across the country, right across the globe is just getting started for people cheering on Team Canada. And this will not be the last that this city, Vancouver, sees of Team Canada. They'll be back at BC Place taking on Switzerland next Wednesday. Jeff.
A party just getting started. Sarah MacDonald in Vancouver. Thank you, Sarah. And reaction is pouring in tonight after the U.S. and Iran signed that preliminary deal to end the war. The Memorandum of Understanding reopens the Strait of Hormuz and kicks off 2 months of further talks that are aimed at tackling the toughest issues that remain unsolved, including the future of Iran's nuclear program. Jackson Prosco reports on President Trump's deal and the criticism coming from within his own Republican Party.
This was not easy.
With little fanfare, Donald Trump inked the deal. So did Iran's president. But neither side can sign away the skepticism in Washington that the deal gives up too much and leaves Iran better off.
This war was a strategic blunder. We've achieved none of our strategic goals. He finally realized he had to just cut our losses, declare a win, and get out any way he could.
Alan Iyer helped negotiate the original Iran nuclear deal under President Barack Obama. He believes it's unlikely the 60 days of negotiations outlined in the Trump agreement will actually produce a lasting deal to curb Iran's nuclear program.
This U.S. administration doesn't have the ability or the willingness to engage in such a serious and sustained negotiation.
What's more, Iran has only agreed to allow free passage through the Strait of Hormuz for the next 60 days. And Iran's ballistic missiles, once a target, no longer seem to be. This was Trump at the start of the war.
We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground.
But now?
It's a little bit unfair for them not to have some.
Add to that the $300 billion reconstruction fund for Iran and the lifting of sanctions, and there's growing blowback from Trump's own Republican Party.
If we give billions of dollars to Iran, that money will be used to murder Americans. And so I don't believe we should do that.
The White House insists it still has the upper hand.
And so you really have a win-win situation for the United States of America.
The next 60 days will put that to the test. Already there are fears neither side can live up to the other's expectations.
This is a complex system. We broke it. I don't think we're going to be able to put it back in the same structure the way it was before the war.
The U.S. says it has now lifted its naval blockade of Iran, while in a statement, Iran's supreme leader says his country's willingness to negotiate in person does not mean it's willing to accept what he calls the enemy's point of view. Jeff?
Jackson Prosco in Washington. Thanks, Jackson. A small number of ships are once again crossing the Strait of Hormuz, including these 3 supertankers from Saudi Arabia. The crucial oil and gas shipping route was reopened to maritime traffic as part of that Iran deal. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance says more than 12 million barrels of oil passed through the strait overnight. That's the most since the U.S. and Israel launched their war on Iran nearly 4 months ago. Many ships, though, are still waiting for assurances that the strait is safe and clear of mines. Gas prices in the U.S. dropped below $4 a gallon for the first time since March the 30th. Gas prices in Canada are also falling. Here's a snapshot of the 5 most expensive regions today. The average price of gas nationally is $1.64 per litre. That's down slightly from yesterday. Analysts predict it could take months for gas prices to drop to pre-war levels, and that's assuming the ceasefire holds. The U.S. Defense Secretary delivered a fiery speech to European leaders today, criticizing NATO allies for not providing bases for U.S. troops to launch their attacks on Iran. At a meeting in Brussels, Pete Hegseth called their reluctance shameful, and he announced a review of U.S. forces in Europe, suggesting the Pentagon could cut the number of troops there if allies fail to meet their defense spending targets.
Too many allies still don't recognize the historic need that President Trump has made clear to them and to NATO itself to reforge a relevant, powerful military alliance.
Hegseth's comments cast a chill over the meeting, which is aimed at setting the agenda for the NATO Leaders Summit next month. And Hegseth's call for Europe to defend itself came just hours after Ukraine launched its largest attack on Russia since the Kremlin launched its full-scale invasion more than 4 years ago. Ukrainian troops hit Moscow with a major drone raid overnight, setting an oil refinery on fire. It's the second time in a week that facility was targeted, and just the latest sign that momentum appears to be shifting. As Mike Armstrong reports, Ukraine's long-range attacks are becoming difficult for Russia to ignore.
It was impossible to miss. Thick black smoke billowed over Moscow, about 15 kilometers southeast of the Kremlin. The aftermath of Ukrainian drones striking one of the country's biggest refineries. The same facility was hit Tuesday, but that fire was extinguished quickly, not this time. Russia's president did have public events Thursday, but didn't address the attack on the capital. Ukraine's president, meantime, was meeting with EU leaders in Brussels. Volodymyr Zelensky calls the attacks entirely justified after Russia hit his capital Monday. The response, he says, was meant to deal an economic blow to Moscow.
Our long-range sanctions are hitting Russian oil facilities, refineries very, very effectively.
The Russian Defense Ministry says it shot down more than 550 Ukrainian drones overnight, but many clearly made it through. Officials in Moscow say at least one hit a residential building. The attack disrupted life in much of the capital. It closed airports, damaged homes and businesses, and injured at least 17 people.
This is going to have, and is already having, a big psychological impact, bringing the consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine closer to home for people in Moscow.
Well, the message Thursday may have been aimed at the public in Russia. The country's major cities haven't been as affected by the war, but that's changing. They're now seeing distance from the front lines isn't necessarily protection from drones, inflation, conscription, censorship, or fuel shortages. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Police officers from across Canada gathered in Mississauga, west of Toronto, for the funeral of Ontario Provincial Police Constable Tharoon Bali. He was hit by a vehicle last week. The 18-year-old driver is now charged with first-degree murder. The 29-year-old officer was remembered for his work ethic, love of Indian music, and a genuine warmth.
Tharoon was a glue holding the group together during every challenge.
Many people knew him as a police officer, but I knew him as the man who carried the weight of this profession and still came home with kindness.
Outside, mourners braved heavy rain to pay their respects during the funeral procession. Toronto police have arrested and charged a 19-year-old wanted in connection with a shooting at the U.S. consulate back in March. Zara Jabi now faces 6 charges, including theft of a vehicle and discharge of a firearm. Police allege 2 suspects who fired at the consulate from a stolen car are linked to a network of hired guns. Earlier this month, an 18-year-old was also arrested. The federal and BC governments are each contributing $100 million for Tumbler Ridge after that deadly mass shooting earlier this year. The money will go towards building a new high school and modernizing the community's health center. BC Premier David Eby promised students would not have to return to the building, where 5 students and an educational assistant were killed in February. Prime Minister Mark Carney says work will begin this summer with the removal of the existing school. Gun control concerns coming up. The pressure on the federal government to better protect survivors of intimate partner violence. Victims of intimate partner violence are calling on the government to keep firearms out of the hands of abusers. More than 2 years ago, Parliament passed a bill making major reforms to Canada's gun laws, and it included so-called red flag provisions to revoke gun licenses from anyone suspected of domestic violence or stalking. But parts of that law remain in limbo. Heidi Petracek reports on concerns that the federal government may be watering down some of the protective measures.
My daughter was my best friend.
More than a decade ago, Allison Iron's daughter, Lindsay Wilson, was murdered by an ex-partner, a man who had a gun license despite being on probation. Ever since, the former RCMP officer has fought in her daughter's name to change the law.
I'm still 13 years later enraged by her murder.
The motion is adopted.
In 2023, Bill C-21 became law, triggering sweeping changes to the Firearms Act. It froze handgun sales, banned assault-style weapons, and introduced red flag laws, preventing anyone subject to an emergency prohibition order from possessing firearms. But other provisions to prevent intimate partner gun violence are still waiting to be implemented.
Why is this taking so long?
The National Association of Women and the Law is among groups concerned government might be watering down the regulations. Public Safety Canada has been working on defining just what a protection order includes. Draft regulations published last year defined it as any civil order. They worry that excludes other types, particularly in criminal matters.
For example, if you're a survivor and there's a peace bond order, so no charges were laid, then that protection order might trigger the automatic license revocation. But then let's say your abuser was charged and then released on bail with the same condition, that would not trigger the license revocation automatically.
Advocates say that's not what legislators intended.
It means that the bill loses any real teeth that it had. It's really the criminal perpetrators of violence against women that we wanted this to apply to in the first place.
Public Safety Minister Gary Ananda-Sangari has recently said the regulations will come into effect in September, but hasn't commented on how broad they will be. For Irons, it means her fight for prevention isn't over. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Alberta's Great Divide still ahead, from the courts to billboards, how tensions are bubbling over ahead of the fall referendum on separation. John Legend led a star-studded lineup at the opening ceremony of the Obama Presidential Center. Jennifer Hudson, Bruce Springsteen, and Stevie Wonder were among the performers. Former First Lady Michelle Obama delivered a tribute to her husband before he took the stage himself and reflected on his time in office.
Of course, we did not accomplish everything we set out to do. No administration does. Some of the exhibits reflect unfinished business. In some cases, my own shortcomings and mistakes. In some cases, because, as a sign I kept on the Resolute desk read, hard things are hard.
The guest list also included former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and other former world leaders such as Angela Merkel and former U.S. Presidents George Bush, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden. A summer of campaigning ahead of Alberta's separation referendum is off to an ugly start. At least one community event has had to be cancelled, with passionate views on both sides escalating into conflict. As Heather Yourex-West explains, Alberta's Premier is now appealing for unity.
In this central Alberta town of less than 3,000, the 4-day Sundry Pro Rodeo is a beloved annual event. Normally, it kicks off with a parade, but not this year.
Really kind of disappointed. Parade is a big thing. It really kind of starts off the day.
At first, organizers denied a pro-separation float from entering the parade. They later invited the float to return, but there was so much harassment surrounding the decisions, the parade was eventually cancelled. East of Lethbridge, this billboard in Tabor also caused an uproar. When town officials asked the pro-separation message be withdrawn, the group behind the campaign tripled down.
We've got 3 of them in Tabor now, actually. We've booked 2 more. We're making our point that the more they keep trying to reduce our messaging in their town, we're just going to expand it further.
If the example that we've seen in Quebec, in England, Scotland, when secession is being discussed, things become heated fairly quickly.
I hope that we can bring the temperature down on some of the discussion and keep the debate respectful.
Alberta's Premier calling for calm as the campaigning gets underway, while firing back on Alberta treaty chiefs who this week called on the RCMP to investigate both the Premier and her government for treason for allowing the separation referendum to proceed.
They continually violate our rights and continue to be disrespectful to the rest of Canadians.
I think it's disgraceful. I would ask the treaty chiefs to check themselves.
A Calgary judge is now hearing appeal submissions as the province and Stay Free Alberta push back on last month's court ruling that quashed a petition calling for the separation referendum, a ruling the province sidestepped by calling what is essentially a referendum on a future separation referendum themselves. Jeff?
Heather Yourex-West in Calgary. Thanks, Heather. A multicultural World Cup. Up next, the biggest and boldest displays of national pride for the world's largest sporting event. It was a ticker tape parade half a century in the making. New York City's trademark confetti raining down on the Knicks and their fans in celebration of the team's first NBA championship since 1973. Many celebrities were among the estimated 1 million people who braved the rain to cheer the team on. And of course, no sport has a wider reach than soccer, and fans from every corner of the globe have been flooding into North America to watch their home countries compete. Our Eric Sorensen reports on the cultural connections being made during this World Cup.
They are the Tartan Army. In Boston, the Scots brought their bagpipes and their thirst.
We're going to come here,
We're going to drink your beer.
Yes, but
Champion!
there's fierce competition across the continent from the Aussies who descended on Vancouver.
Hey, get the Aussies!
It's one type of cultural exchange that pub owners appreciate.
We just didn't know when it would hit, and then it hit, and then it's been nuts ever since.
One of the great successes of this World Cup are fans from 48 nations dispersing across North America. 2 fans, for France and for Algeria, he says. And they come to exchange traditions. These are Mexicans in Guadalajara dancing Gangnam Style. Mexico has welcomed South Korea's team and its fans.
People want to take photos. I hope other Koreans that haven't been to Mexico can come and see what it's like here.
Toronto is multicultural all the time, but even here the World Cup is a melting pot with new flavors. From throngs of Bosnians last week to the Panamanians this week. Ana Ferrara from Panama City.
Kind of like romantic and exciting to have so many people from our country, a small country, travel all the way here.
Ghanaians not only brought their passion and colorful outfits to Toronto, you could also catch a glimpse of the king of the Ashanti people, one of several kingdoms in Ghana.
I mean, look around you. How many people have come here? It means a lot to us.
You never know who you'll see. Norwegians, like they're still coming here on Viking ships. In Dallas, you could spot the Japanese with traditional face paintings. And some Japanese fans were also the ones who helped clean up the stadium after the game. While Brits were at a Texas rodeo, chanting scruffy lyrics about the Scots. Probably baffled the Cowboys. Not sure the Scots back in Boston were paying attention. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Jeff Semple. Your Canada is going global this week. We have pictures of Canadian pride sent from all over the world. Tonight we're showcasing Iguazu Falls at the border between Argentina and Brazil, Inverness, Scotland, and Point Roberts in Washington State. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride from wherever you are to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.